Hello, we are DS Navigator, and we are very honored to work on this project. This is a quote from our sponsor, Catherine Davey. She's a member of the community with a daughter who's been diagnosed with Down syndrome. Children with Down syndrome face many additional health challenges that neurotypically developing children do not. Our sponsor detailed many accounts to us in which she often felt blindsided by what her daughter's medical providers were telling her. The medical documentation for caring for a child with Down syndrome is dense and written for medical professionals. So she thought, wouldn't it be nice if there was an app that could just tell me what to do, an app that would tell me what to expect. So the problem that we set out to solve was the dearth of comprehensive, easy to follow care guidelines and an instructional list of health challenges that before just didn't exist. We worked with our sponsor and with Dr. Courtney Hott to be able to come up with that. The sponsors requested that the application be compatible with iOS and Android devices and that it populate the diagnostic schedule by inputting the child's date of birth. I am Kristen Chris, the project manager. We had Ricardo Rios and Nelson Alvarez on our front end and Gabriel Barcinas and Jack Baramucci on our back end.
Part of the application features includes personalizing guest accounts for caregivers, a personalized health challenges profile regarding the children of the caregivers, diagnostic schedule timeline, appointment calendar for events, synchronization between the timeline and the calendar, a local resources table, and a day in life blog for the users. Part of the stack includes React Native, which provides integration between iOS and Android devices, and Expo, which is development tools built around React Native.
The stack infrastructure that we used follows a typical MERN architecture. MERN standing for MongoDB, Express, React Native, and Node.js. On top of that, we decided to host our application on Amazon Web Services. We used Amazon's DocumentDB because it is a NoSQL MongoDB compatible database hosted by Amazon, as well as a serverless approach to propping up our middleware, our API. We used AWS Lambda functions to just execute the code, as well as AWS Gateway and Cognito for endpoint management and secure practices. In parallel with that, we also use simple storage devices like S3 buckets and Elastic Container Repositories.
So this is generally how our database is structured. You could see the interactions between different collections, such as how the FAQ and stories are in resources, or how personal timeline is related to the user child and checks, and how events are tied to the user.
A lot of the changes that we incorporated for our backend and our database happened within this last semester. The big one was the migration to Amazon Web Services, because previously we were just dealing with MongoDB locally. Amazon has unparalleled security practices, and our app primarily deals with very sensitive medical information protected by HIPAA. So security is not only our top priority, but also a big legal concern as well. It was a very big importance for us. On top of this, we also wanted to make sure that our database schema was tidied up. And so between the beginning of the semester and where we are now, we did get rid of and optimized a lot of models within our database schema. Now I will pass it off.
We'll have Ricardo show the application.
All right, so this is the DS Navigator app. You're prompted to either log in or register, or you can continue as guest. We'll go ahead and move on as guest for right now. When you are brought in as a guest, you get a general timeline that provides all of the general advice or conditions or checks that you might want to do for your child between 0 months and 5 years old. These are populated all the way down, and you can go and expand them to get a better view of sort of the age of concern and also the description. You are also provided with a resources tab. This provides resources for you as a caregiver to be able to see programs or things that might interest you to allow your children or your dependents to do something fun or receive help. After that, you can go ahead and log in or register. When you go to register, you can go ahead and add multiple children, and this will take their name, their date of birth, and their conditions. This is used to populate that general timeline we spoke about before. So we can go ahead and log in real quick. So when we go to our guidelines page, now that we're logged in, we see this top bar has changed. We now have our child's name as well as their personalized timeline with checks that might apply to them. So this child is 1 month old. They fall into that 1 to 12 month category. So these are checks that they might want to look into, as well as when you open a detailed description, you are prompted to add an event to your calendar. Say if you were to set up an appointment to get something checked out, you can add it straight from here. We can also switch over to any other different children that we might have. So right now we have another child that was just born. As you can see, this prompts you for 0 to 1 months. And same applies here. You can add events to your calendar, get a good description of that, as well as going to the general timeline if you want a more general view of any checks or conditions that you might want to look out for. When you go to your profile page, you can edit your profile, as well as add children or edit your children's conditions, date of birth, or name, as well as log out from the application. I will now hand it back to Kristen.
So going forward, we have a couple of things that we'd like to continue working on the app post-senior design. We'd like to implement Google API so that we could have a clinic or doctor lookup associated with our resources, and expand the application into multiple languages and past the Central Florida area. So right now we're working on documentation to accommodate for version 2 teams, and we all plan to continue working on this really great application for the community. Thank you very much.